Yeah, what's good, people? Welcome back to my channel. And for those of you who are not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. It's a new channel, only been going for a month. And I want to say thank you very much to the 500 subscribers that we already have on board. Let's get to it. Stargirl, episode 6. And this show continues to go from strength to strength, where we have an unimaginable amount of power given to these kids who are completely inexperienced, who are trying to take on villains of the past. Now, this episode completely shows how much these guys are out of their depth. There's a current theme that these guys have got these powers, and these powers mean everything to them because of what has been going on in their social lives. So we'll talk about Stargirl, Courtney Whitmore, who's a girl who's not had that father relationship. She hasn't had that kind of upbringing from her father. She's missed out on that kind of love. And then her mother meets this guy, Pat Dugan, her stepfather, and you know how relationships goes with your stepfather. And she's just like not wanting anything to do with that relationship at all. And then she finds herself understanding that her father could have been Starman and that her stepfather was his sidekick. And everything he's been talking about, Pat Dugan, Courtney has been listening to, and Courtney has been sort of on board with it. And she's slowly realizing that this guy, Pat, is giving her the guidance that she has always been listening to. I remember the scene right at the end here where she starts to talk to Pat and says, well, I'm giving them instructions, the team, but they're not listening, and it's frustrating. And he's looking at her going, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Do you see now? And then she turns around and she looks at him and like, oh, okay. So that's how I've been towards you. So it was a kind of nice little offset scene to make her realize that she needs to grow as a stepdaughter as well as a partner. Remember, Pat Dugan was Starman's sidekick. And for this to work, they're going to have to create a synergy to work together as a family and as a crime fighting team. So that was a nice little analogy there. But we open up the episode to Lawrence Crusher Croc and Paula Brooks. Now, these are secret ISA members of which are called Sportsmaster and Tigress. So I talked about them in the last episode. And in the last episode, it was essentially they were the parents of Artemis, who's a football stud and the person that Yolanda and Courtney looked at and said, oh, maybe she's too competitive. Yeah, we talked about that a lot last week, talking about them and going into depth about their characters. And lo and behold, we see them here starting out, seeing the coach of the football team benching Artemis and Tigress and Sportsmaster going in for the kill. It turns out this was the third coach that they had killed. So these guys are just complete insane maniacs. And this episode really goes to spot them out. So I really like that as well, because I did talk about the original Tigress was her before it was Artemis. So it's good to see her in tandem with Sportsmaster. And I thought they really delivered a massive punch in this episode. And yeah, they take out the coach. They kill the coach. And really, it just goes to show how much of a pair of psychopaths they all are. And what I like about this is, obviously, Pat Dugan is sitting down in Courtney's room waiting for her to turn up and to have that conversation with her about finding out that they've taken all these amazing, dangerous weapons of the JSA, and he's basically asked Courtney to tell the kids to give them back. Remember, we talked about the growth within each characters. We talked about Courtney and Yolanda. Yolanda is someone who society doesn't accept her. School and the girls don't accept her, and her parents have disowned her as well because of the mistakes she made with Brainwave Sun. So she's a complete outcast. So Wildcat persona has really changed her and defined her as a person, whereas it's something she couldn't do before. And the same goes for Beth. Beth's had no friends. She's got a motor mouth. She talks all day long. She's met her mother for lunch, and her mother's just like, girl, you need to stop coming to the office and boring me with your stories and making me lunch and go and find yourself some friends. So it's almost like now having Dr. Midnight's AI glasses, she's got someone who she can talk the ears off to all day, and they'll engage in that conversation with her and banter with her and also educate her as well. Now, little perplexed by her character, because actually she's my favorite character because she's so adorable. But the problem is this is a girl who's very smart, very articulate, and we want to see her grow into that type of Cisco on the Flash type of person who comes up with neat ideas and the smart choices that the team lacks. Now, the problem I have with this is so far the exposition with her has been to ask the goggles questions and the goggles to provide the answers. So if that's going to happen for the whole season, then what's the point of actually having her there? Does that make sense? You know, if she's the person who's just taken instructions from goggles, then she herself has no growth in her whatsoever. I'm really disappointed by what I've seen from that so far. What I expect from her, get the information from the glasses and analyze the information and then make a subjective choice from herself about what's going on. That's what I want to see. And I'm not talking about, you know, Cisco realizing that they've met a villain and they have to come up with a device to defeat him in the next hour or so. And, you know, that's ridiculous on the Flash. I'm not going to that extent. I'm saying that the JSA itself, those goggles don't know everything. When she was introduced to Dr. Midnighter, she realized the glasses said to her, because she said, "You know everything, don't you?" And the glasses said, "No, I'm only official database for the Justice Society." So it only knows what the JSA has accumulated in terms of information over that time period. Obviously, technology moves on, and computers are vastly superior than what they were 10 years ago. But an idea of that, this is where I'm going with this. An idea of that is Rex Tyler had written a book and written a formula on the drug Miracolo. And there's no information in the goggles about this drug whatsoever, or the fact that Rex Tyler had made this journal, because it only knew what was in the database. So when you looked at the diary and the memoirs of Rex Tyler, the goggles wouldn't have known anything because that was secret. That was a secret memo that was passed down to Pat Dugan, of which he's given his son, Rick Tyler. So the goggles wouldn't have known anything about that. So that's what I like about it. It's grounded in terms of what it does know and what it doesn't know. And these are the things that I'm hoping Beth to really bridge the gap on. As for our man, again, Rick, we all know his story, was completely abused by his uncle in terms of having shown any love whatsoever. He's missed out and found that his father was a superhero. Now, what was cool in this episode was Rick then meets Pat and thinks, well, you're a useless sidekick. That's the reason why you were a sidekick. And then it's only until they see Pat land down in Stripe that they realize, well, this guy made this out of a bunch of cars. So they kind of went from not respecting him and treating him as a sidekick to having a lot of respect for him. So I'm hoping now that Pat Dugan has grown within the respect of the team in order for him to lead them accordingly. But for Rick, Pat does mention that his father, Rex, made the drug for an hour a day for exactly 60 minutes because the nature of the Miracolo's effectiveness, the drug in the human body, and it would have made the user addictive to that type of drug. So in order to place limitations on it, he only made it so it works 60 minutes a day. Now, in the comics, there has been instances where he's gone over that amount and his body has taken its toll because of it. And I think that the series needs to explore that. And I think it needs to explore Rick Taylor as well, because Rick is somebody who's at school. We don't know whether he's a dropout or whether he's not taking school seriously, or whether he's secretly a brain box, you know, whether he's a Peter Parker, whether he's somebody who actually is interested in biochemical, the way how it works and cereal formulas and things like that. And what I like about the journal is I think that this is a great idea in order to build narrative with the character so that he thinks, my God, my father made all of this. I'm going to be better than my father, and then gets his head into the books and studies and then works with the formula. That's what I'm really hoping for, that this series gives us. Guys, you have no idea. This series right now, Stargirl, has so much quality about it, and there's so many places that they can take it. This is the reason why they weren't giving back the suits, because they all saw some growth in between them. And I like when the team actually says to Courtney, if Pat asked you to give back the staff, would you give it back? And Courtney's face was just like, yeah, not really. And that shows you exactly where all the team members are, because all of them are placed in a situation where they're finding out more about themselves now that they have these abilities, and they realize they cannot simply go back to the people that they were before. So the whole thing really in this episode is about them being really bullish, trying to really step out of their comfort zone. They meet Sportsmaster and Tigress and absolutely get their ass handed to them, which you wanted. If they went in there and started beating them up, it would have just not worked. And you like the fact that a team can have a massive beatdown and realize we got to work at this. I think the only one that was doing well was Yolanda, because Yolanda had a certain amount of boxing skills, and the suit does give her some agility and athletic prowess in order for her to meet with that. And we saw instances where she was fighting Tigress with it, she was doing backflips and things like that. And you can see her really growing because she had talent before the suit. You know, she had fighting ability before the suit. We also saw a scene which was really nice of her looking at Ted Dance, the original Wildcat. She was looking at his fights and studying his fights and realizing, you know, this guy was a fighter before he was a hero. Kind of just like her as well in terms of her training with boxing. So she's realizing she's going to have to work hard outside of the suit in the gym with her boxing skills to become more effective in the suit as a Wildcat. And I really like that growth from her. So guys, Cameron, Icicle's son, remember in the original Earth 1, Icicle's daughter was Killer Frost, Caitlin, but in Earth 2, he actually has a son who's Cameron, who becomes the new Icicle in the comics. And when Cameron was blowing out the birthday cake, the candle, he discovered his cryotechnic powers. Overall, guys, I think we're going to get to a part where Brainwave's son realizes he can hear voices in his head, and then that's going to change him. And also Icicle's son Cameron, he's got powers as well. And then we've got Artemis, who's the daughter of Sportsmaster and Tigress. I think what we're going to be seeing here, guys, and I hope in further seasons, is that the Injustice Society are going to be phased out. They're going to be taken out some kind in order to let their kids grow. And then this is going to turn out to be a JSA versus the new kids of being villains of their parents. Because look, the JSA are no match for these supervillains right now. These kids, Courtney and Rex and Beth and Yolanda, are nowhere near the ability to take down the Injustice. We also got some exposition on the Green Lantern. I'm hoping Green Lantern shows his face in season 2, where Pat talks about the lantern is actually no good without the ring. So it really does ask questions about where is the ring? And does it mean that Alan Scott is actually still alive? So guys, we have to understand here that it's not official whether the old school JSA, all of the members are dead. Yeah, that's not official. And I'm hoping at some point some of the old members actually come back, and then we get a little bit more narrative from the original crew. But guys, again, another wonderful episode, and just the fighting in this episode as well is really done. Again, top class special effects, and I just hope that we're going to see this moving forward. I'm pleasantly surprised by the growth of this show, and another stud episode. So that's why I'm going to leave it right there, guys, and then we'll have a look towards episode 7 next week. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below, and thanks. See you in the next one. Peace out.